Hey there everyone, and welcome back to Afrodo Reviews. And on this channel I help you decide, is that book worth reading over second breakfast? Or does it deserve the fiery pits of Mount Doom? So let's decide. At least you let me finish this time. Today's book is Warriors, Into the Wild. It was originally published by Erin Hunter on January 9th of 2003. It's the first book in its first series of the Warrior Cats franchise, and was the first chronologically ever to be published. Not the first chronologically in its timeline, the first one that was published chronologically, I guess I should say. But to give a decent sense of scale here, there are 48 books in total in the series, with the latest book, Star, set to be released on November of this year being 2024. And that's only counting the full novels. There's also 14 special edition books, which are standalone works focused on a single character, 5 field guides, 15 volumes of manga, and 21 novellas within the series. And that's not adding in all of Erin Hunter's books about polar bears, dogs, lions, and recently a series about panda bears. Man, I remember when the new Prophecy series was the newest series Erin Hunter was writing. But one of the more interesting things to know about Erin Hunter, by the way, is that this is a pseudonym. Now, unlike the case with, say, Richard Bachman or Mary Westmacott, I think I said that right, this isn't to hide the identity of a single author, but to serve as a name for a collective group of authors who have all worked on this book series. Erin Hunter is actually the authors Victoria Holmes, Kate Carey, Sharif Baldry, probably Sharif, Clarissa Hutton, Inbali Isirles, I do not know how to say that, Twee T. Sutherland, Don Jolly, I'm just going to say Jolly, Gillian Phillip, and Rosie Best. There was actually a lot of thought for why they chose this specific pseudonym. The first is the most obvious one, is that they were planning to write a rather expansive work from the start, and they didn't want the series to be separated throughout libraries and be hard to find if they were all published under the name of the author who wrote that specific work. However, the second reasoning was actually a little more interesting, as they claimed they chose the Erin Hunter pseudonym because they wanted to place the books near the Redwall series, who was written by Brian Jacques. They chose Hunter because they felt like it invoked the image of a cat, and Erin because, in addition to being a strong Celtic name that didn't sound too girly, it's also Victoria Holmes' favorite name. Now, the creation of the series was also fairly interesting as well. Originally, HarperCollins asked Victoria Holmes to write a book series about cats, a fantasy book series at that. However, despite her own love of cats in general, she didn't have enough ideas to write a fantasy story about feral cats. She gave a crack at it after coming up with enough material to create an entire 6 books of it rather than just one. Victoria Holmes brought in Kate Carey to write the first book. During the drafting of the third book is when author Sharif Baldry would join in the fold, and then after writing a field guide, Twee T. Sutherland was also introduced as well. The inspirations behind this book series has been cited as very wide and numerous. This includes works like Ursula K. Le Guin, Shakespeare, Tolkien, Kathy Reichs, Kate Ellis, Lisa Gardner, J.K. Rowling, I'll talk about her eventually, and so on, were all cited as inspirational sources. However, I think my favorite is that Victoria Holmes has admitted that Rambo and Gladiator have both served as inspirations for a few of the scenes and lines within the story as well. Man, I kind of want to see that cut of First Blood, to be honest with you. In any case, here's the report card. Now let's move on to the cover. Now the cover of this book is pretty good. At the point I'm reviewing this, the books have become pretty well known, so it definitely knows that it can rely on its name recognition. I remember the original covers, or at least the cover that was the book I picked up, where we'd get a background shot and then they would give us a small portrait on this of the sorts in the series. Now, that's not to say that this is bad, because it is pretty good. We got our main character, Firepaw, in this novel, crouched in grass as he sneaks up on something. Brilliant green eyes, blazing in direct contrast with his fiery fur. His fiery orange fur. We know this is going to be about a cat, and the title, in its unique font and way, informs us it's going to be more than just a regular cat. And all in all, it's a good cover to draw interest and give us hints at what the book is about. Now let's move on to the synopsis. Now, for those of you who watch my TBRs, you know that I read the back of the books that month there. If you're interested in seeing the way the book presents itself, please go there and check it out. But for the context of this review, here's a quick synopsis. The book follows a pet cat named Rusty as he runs away from home to join the clans of feral cats in his backyard. Though initially rough, the newly named Firepaw finds out that life as a wildcat is tough, but fulfilling, and he struggles with the acceptance and learning the ways. He also seems to have entered the clans at a time where the tensions are at its highest, as one of the clans, River Clan, has attacked and killed the deputy of Thunder Clan. Shortly thereafter, a third clan, Shadow Clan, has begun to go down dark routes, threatening to drive other clans out of their territories unless they allow them to hunt within their territories. Furthermore, Shadow Clan seems to be doing dark acts, such as fielding child soldiers, driving out the former medicine cat for false crimes, and attempting to steal other clans' kittens. And there's also a lingering darkness behind one of Thunder Clan's most renowned warriors, Tiger Claw, where Firepaw suspects that the larger Tabby's ambitions may be darker than Firepaw might ever imagine, and that Tiger Claw's apprentice, Ravenpaw, might know something that he's not telling people. So, how did this book hold up on a reread?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, so I'll be a bit more descriptive than that. But honestly, yeah, it's still pretty good. It still holds up rather well, and I had about as much fun rereading it as I did when I first read it as a kid. For example, even just turning on to the first page, well, not quite the first page, because this is obviously an older series, so I'm getting all of the books that have been published. Yeah, by the way, all of this are books in their series. It's not even all of them. It's 2 pages. Just turning the first page, you automatically get a glossary of the allegiances of each cat within the world. It starts with Thunder Clan, our main clan. It tells you every cat's name and the role they fill within the tribe, as well as the basic description. For example, you got here, leader, Blue Star, blue-gray she-cat tinged with silver around her muzzle. You know she's the leader of Thunder Clan. It's very nice to just get that quick description out, and helps basically helps you contextualize where everyone's going to be standing when the story comes. I remember one of the things that I liked doing when I was a kid was reading through the book, and every time I saw a cat's name be said, I would come back and flip through and be like, there, he's that. But another thing is, actually this is the more important one, another thing is this. I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is a map showing off our area. And not just that, the first map is just how the cats see the world. And you turn the page, and you get a map that's more tailored to us 2 legs, which has a nice juxtaposition. The first map shows us the fantastical world where the cats live, and then the second map brings it back down to the mundane reality that it really is. And that's not to say that this book doesn't have fantastical elements to it, because it very much does. It's merely how the 2 species perceive the world. We see it through the fantastical eyes of the cats throughout the book, but the second map shows us what they're actually seeing. So if you had trouble, picturing what they're talking about, you would look and say, oh, okay, so the sacred cave is actually a mine that's been abandoned. That makes sense. So now you go from imagining just a regular cave to the opening of a mine entrance. I will say, though, that even though the book does liken itself to Redwall as the... Redwall. Even though the book does liken itself to Redwall, as the background would tell you, considering that this is the name Erin Hunter was literally chosen for that, I will say that having read both Redwall, that series, Warrior Cats isn't quite as eloquently written. It definitely feels rougher on a prose sense, And that one does definitely have a more grandiose sense of fantasy to it. So despite that the series wants you to do, it's really best not to go into Warrior Cats expecting that one. That being said, I was also right about one thing in my TBR. Now, I know I mentioned it, I was right about Silverwing books as well in this regard, just to a much lesser degree. But this book, whew, there was actually moments I forgot how dark it could have been. Like, Silverwing tries to be a little black in between the lighter tones that it keeps overall. This book may have you glancing in your cat at worry as you maybe consider what grand plans they are concocting in their heads as they stare out the windows. You might have to sleep with one eye open afterwards. This book has a lot of death for one, as more than one named character dies in battle. It has one clan literally fielding child soldiers to fight other clans with, run by a leader who murdered another pair of children and then blames their doctor for it, to drive her out of the country. And that even gets even worse once you find out the context between those two relationships in a later book. We see war brewing, we see betrayal, we watch as a mentor tries to frame his apprentice for his wrongdoings and subtly manipulates most of the clan into turning on him and trying to kill his apprentice to cover up his own schemes. It's all pretty dark, but not in an overly oppressive way. It serves to make you hate the bad guys even more and make our main character, Firepaw, struggles much more tangible with the goals that we want to see him achieve. Now, there are a couple things that I do want to comment on here and there, though, that don't quite make sense on a reread. Okay, so I guess this is a more of a series-wide complaint, but it's more in regards to Star Clan and the leader cat's special ability. You see, when a cat is made the leader of the clan, they gain the suffix star. So later on in the series, that's kind of a spoiler. So like say the warrior Lionheart would have become the leader of the clan. His name would change to Lion Star, and he would gain 9 lives from the mystical and magical Star Clan.
I find the very idea of 9 lives absurd.
The clan of cats that make up the ancestor spirits of their tribe and watches over them. Now, the way the book and the subsequent books are written, Star Clan has to accept your bid for leader of the clan, and only after acceptance do they grant you the 9 lives. Whereas Star Clan effectively represents heaven and angels, we also have the place of no stars, or the Dark Forest, which isn't necessarily brought up in this book, but is needed to prove my point here. Now, the Dark Forest is hell, basically. You get to it in the... oh, sorry, I remember something completely different. And you get to it in the same way that you get to it human hell, by committing great atrocities and evil. So you would think, with the natural cosmological separation of good and evil, Star Clan would exercise a bit of restraint when it comes to the leaders of their clans, and who they grant the 9 lives to, right?
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
In this book in specific, we see that Broken Star, the Shadow Clan leader who murders his own father, murders 2 children, and then frames the medicine cat, which again gets worse when you find out the context of the relationship, and fields child soldiers when he's the leader, was approved by heaven and its angels. Equivalently speaking. Now, obviously, you could argue that maybe this was a decision made before the collective Erin Hunter, before Erin Hunter truly nailed down the cosmology, and this was just a bit thing of early installment weirdness. Except, mild spoilers for future books, but Broken Star isn't the first of the evil cats who was appointed leader, and he isn't the last. Actually, if I recall right, one of the prequel stories about Broken Star actually says he was a prophesized evil, which makes their decision to grant him the powers of a leader weird. And we do see in later works in this very series, they can reject leaders. Or, I guess more accurately, they also have arbitrary rules, like you can't make a new leader while the old leader still lives, even if that old leader has been completely rejected by his clan and kicked out. It's weird, and I can't dive too deep into it without tons of spoilers. But I will say that, it's the first of a series, so a lot of the potential complaints I had here, I don't think I can say it because it's brought. I know some of them are fixed in later, And I know, and I can't remember about the others, but I feel like they are too. So, in any case, I really don't have all that much to say about this book. It was a good read, it brought back some good nostalgic memories, and honestly, I'm still glad it holds up a bit. Even if I didn't quite enjoy it the same way I once did. But a real test would be when I get to the sequel story. For now, though, 7 out of 10. Yeah, I've kind of said all I can about the Warrior Cat series. I don't have too much to really talk about. I don't really have too much to talk about in regards to it. I do think it's a pretty good book. It definitely did hold up a lot better than the Transall saga again. I'm going to keep bringing that back because so far that's the one that's held up the least. With that being said, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're interested in the Warrior Cat series, I would recommend it. It is a bit darker, so go with that in mind, but I think that's more of a case that just doesn't talk down to kids. It's more of a, let's add reality into some of this fantasy, which seems weird considering one of my big complaints about writers like J.R.R. Martin and other things is how they don't seem to understand that fantasy isn't meant to be unrealistic. Not the point here. I'll rant about that another day. But anyways, with that being said, yeah, I don't have much else to say about it. I could recommend it to a certain group of people. I know people who still like it today that are about my age. I do recommend checking it out if you're interested in it, but that's about all I got. Yeah. That being said, I'm not going to pretend I'm going to throw in a Mount Doom, guys. I'm really not. Again, 7 out of 10. That being said, just remember, with every book comes an adventure. Every adventure's worth having, even the bad ones. See you later, everyone.